Edith Eger survived Auschwitz when she was 16 years old. She went on to become a famous psychologist and help people all the way into her 90s. She developed 4 questions she used when helping her patients. The first 2 are, what do you want? And who wants it? Isn't it interesting that someone with so much experience would boil it down so simply? That's because we overcomplicate things. Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. said, "I would not give a fig for the simplicity on this side of complexity, but I would give my life for the simplicity on the other side of complexity." A lot of times we get intimidated when setting goals, but really there are 4 pillars, 4 areas that we want to develop around each of our goals, that if we do that right, we're going to be much more likely to accomplish our goals. The first pillar of goal setting is to create an aspirational vision. I'll call that our hope or our dream. This is our why, really based in our values. What is it that we yearn for? What makes us excited? If I think about my physical goals, if I look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm actually not motivated to go to the gym. I'm not like, oh, I want to be like Arnold. But if I look at Hugh Jackman and Wolverine, I'm like, dude, I'd like to be more like that. All of us are different. All of us get motivated by different things. Think about your goal, and then think about areas or aspirational visions that get you excited in that area. One way to help you clarify that vision is to think about your heroes. Who is it that you really admire? If you're thinking about goals to be a better father, think, wow, what people in my life, I have an older brother, for example, that I really admire when it comes to his ability to be a great dad. Or I have a younger brother when it comes to fitness. I really admire how well he stays in shape. Spend time with great people, think about great people, and make a list of the different people in your life that inspire you. Make a list of your heroes. Watch movies about them. Read books about them. I know he's a fictional character, but I really love Edmond Dantes from The Count of Monte Cristo. He was locked away and he could have just withered away and died in prison, but he focused on becoming his best self. Granted, he did it to get revenge, but he became an amazing person. He learned languages and science and math, and he was cultured, and he learned everything that the doctor could teach him. He's a hero of mine. A lot of times when setting goals, we want to rush right to getting things done. No, I'm going to set this goal, I'm going to start going to the gym. Going to the gym is a tactic, right? We're going to get to that later. First, you need to develop a clear why. Get motivated. Think about what excites you. That's where vision boards come in. I used to think that vision boards were really cheesy, but now the more I learn about how our minds work, that's exactly what we need, is to think more and more about what we want and not what we don't want. Think in the positive. Come up with things you're gonna do, not things you're gonna avoid. If you're actively doing something, very engaged in doing something, it's gonna be hard to start doing the things that you don't want to do. Lao Tzu says that your thoughts become your words actions, actions habits, habits character, character destiny. So everything starts in our mind. Jim Rohn says that we become like the people we spend the most time with. Spend time with people that inspire you, that embody the things that you also want to embody. This first pillar is more about our yearnings, our desires. Alcoholics Anonymous, their second step in overcoming addiction is to believe that a greater power than ourselves could restore us to sanity. This is more of the spiritual element. Louis Zamperini was shot down in World War II and had to survive at sea for 47 days. During one of those times, he said a prayer that said, "God, if you save me, I will dedicate my whole life to you." He eventually was caught by the Japanese and went through this horrible prison experience. He got home, had nightmares, became an alcoholic, but at a revival with Billy Graham, he remembered that promise that he made, and he remembered his resolve. He went home that night, threw away all his alcohol, and never touched a drop of alcohol again. I'd wanted to quit sugar for years. I loved the idea of it, but I didn't like it enough. So I started reading books about diet and nutrition. I started watching movies about it, and eventually, after several years, I got the resolve to quit it, and it wasn't a lot of work. It was easy to do it. I've been off sugar for 6 months. But I couldn't have done it without really strengthening my why and having a lot of reasons on why I wanted to do that. That takes us to our second point, which is the actual outcome. This is the second pillar. When defining your goal, make sure that you have something that you can either achieve or not, that you can say yes or no to. In my case with Hugh Jackman, I decided that he'd be able to run a 5:30 mile and do a backflip and a few other things. Those were the specific things that I could either achieve or not achieve. When looking at your goals, make sure that once you've identified that clear vision, write down concrete realities or things that you could actually accomplish that you could say yes or no to. It's really important to get clear on why you want something and then what exactly you want so we can move on to those next pillars. The third pillar is tactics. What are you actually going to do? What are the activities that you'll do? By having clear tactics, it helps you focus on the present. A lot of times when we have these big goals, we can get caught up saying that we'll only be happy at some future date, waiting for us to make X amount of money or be like that person, where I would prefer to be able to be happy in the present. I love getting really clear about what tactics I'm gonna do, and we'll talk about the fourth pillar next. This is the process, getting clear on the process that you're gonna focus on day in, day out, that will help you achieve your goal. Dale Carnegie, in his book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, said, live your life in day-tight compartments. By becoming clear on your tactics, it's very easy to be present because you've already decided what you actually want, what you're going to achieve, and if you can get really clear on the tactics that it'll take to get you there, then you don't have to worry about not being there yet. You can just be happy that you're on the journey. Bob Dylan said, act the way you'd like to be, and soon you'll be the way you'd like to act. Here are a few tips on establishing tactics. Let me tell you about how I learned French. So, je peux parler beaucoup de choses en français. No, but I can say a lot of things in French. There's still a lot that I can't say, and I'm not amazing by any stretch, but I've become reasonably mediocre. For 15 years, I've wanted to start learning French, and for the first 10 of those years, I decided that I was gonna study for 30 minutes a day. And guess how often that happened? Never. I may have done it well for a day or two here in a row, but I always went back to failure. What worked for me was when I finally decided that I was gonna study for 5 minutes a day and make it a small chunk. That's when I became successful. I've studied French every day for at least 5 minutes since then. I want to share with you a structure that you can use that might help you create your strategy on how you position those different roles. Think about a quadrant. In the top left, you'll have amazing. Top right is above average, bottom left, average, and then bottom right is below average. Go and score yourself now. How is your health? Are you amazing? Are you below average? How are you doing as a family member or friend? Put those in the things. Learning new skills, in business, as an employee, whatever roles you have, identify where they are and be real about it. It's really hard to take something from below average up to amazing overnight. If you never go to the gym, it's gonna be really hard to start going for an hour a day. Instead, consider doing 10 push-ups a day and be okay with that because that's a foundation you can build from. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. And that's how it's worked. With me learning French, I studied for 5 minutes a day, and then eventually I started watching movies in another language on Disney+. It's been a lot of fun. But now I spend even more time than 5 minutes a day studying language because I was able to increase once I had a foundation. When coming up with tactics, think about those people that you want to replicate and what they do. They say that success leaves clues. Find successful people, identify what they do, and replicate it. The fourth pillar is to get really clear on the specifics. I was riding my bike through Europe with some friends a long time ago in 2006, and we needed to make it to another city called Hermesinde in Portugal in 5 days. So the dream was, I want to be with my friends at church. That's where I was a missionary, and I wanted to make it back to a certain city so I could go to church with this family. And my friend and I were fighting whether we should take a train or ride. I wanted to take a train because I wanted to ensure that we would be there. He wanted to ride. So but my hope was to be at church with my friends. The actual outcome was that we needed to be there in Hermesinde by Sunday at 9 a.m. The tactics we were going to use, because we chose to ride, was we would ride our bikes every day, right? That was the tactic. Where the rubber really hit the road was in the specifics. We decided that we would, each day when we rode, especially the last day, we needed to ride 156 miles. This was, I think, the second to last day. I decided that we would be not rolling, that we would be rolling all but 2 hours of the day. I wasn't worried about how fast we were going. Our goal was that we would have no more than 2 hours off of the bike the whole day. That's what I mean when getting specific. What exactly are you going to do? Perfect, you're gonna study French on the Duolingo app. How many lessons will you do? You're gonna go to the gym. Exactly how many days a week are you gonna go and for how long? You're going to read. How long are you gonna read? That's where the numbers come in. The vision, you can't measure. The actual outcome, you can measure. Tactics, can't really measure them, they're just tactics. Specifics, you can measure. So set real clear specifics around those goals. When I was learning to do a backflip, I decided I would go every single week to the adult gymnastics class on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. It was very specific. When I started exercising after a long time of inconsistent workouts, I started doing 25 push-ups and 50 sit-ups 6 days a week. Get clear on how often you're going to exercise each of those tactics. Out of the 4 pillars, you really only need to focus on the 2. What tactics are you going to use, and how often and how much are you going to do of each of them? And that's a way for us to live more of a life in the process instead of always worrying about, oh, but I need to make this much money, or oh, I need to do that. No, just figure out people that make that much money, what do they actually do? And then get really clear on those processes and your specifics, and then you can be happy as if you're already a millionaire. And for my personality, that really helps, because a lot of times I get so worried about the future and am I doing enough and yada, yada, yada. My kids and I recently hiked 24.5 miles to Kings Peak in Utah. We actually didn't make it all the way up, but our goal was make it all the way up, but we decided that our tactic was we were going to take breaks as little as possible. We didn't care about how fast or how slow we hiked, but we were going to continue walking, so we ate on the run, or we were walking while we ate, and we didn't stop often. And that's how we were able to walk 24.5 miles with a 9 and 11-year-old. A bonus tip, after you've done these 4 pillars, right? Your hope, your actual outcomes, tactics, specifics, is think about the O and the S, obstacles and solutions. What could get in your way of becoming like Hugh Jackman? Really, you're not going to do it for the hope, but for the specifics, what could get in your way for getting to the gym? Oh, I wouldn't wake up. Well, go to bed earlier, whatever. Think about those obstacles that could come up, and then think about the solutions for each of them. That'll make it even more likely that you'll reach your goals. I want you to think, how much time did you spend last year on setting goals, and how much time are you going to commit to creating clarity around your goals this year? I'd love to hear about the big goals you're making and what your main takeaway was from this video. And most importantly, best of luck to you in reaching your goals. I know that it's going to be awesome and you will be great. See you in the next video.